Okay, we'll be back in session. We have a pleasant duty to perform. We have 3 outstanding officers from our own police department that risked life and limb to rescue an elderly lady just about 2 weeks ago. And it seems as though that lately in the news, all we hear about is police officers being ridiculed, no respect, being shot at now. This is something that's a pleasant duty to perform. Jimmy, you're getting kind of old for these kind of actions. But that said, we have 3 plaques, one for Officer Robert Larochelle, James Young Sr., and Spencer Donovan. So I'll read one of them, and they're all the same. Known to all men, these present, that the Webster Board of Selectmen hereby officially recognize all 3 officers for their courage and bravery during the December 28, 2015 fire on Granite Street. Whereas on December 28, 2015, the 3 officers arrived at 39 Granite Street to find heavy smoke and fire coming from the 2-story multi-family house. And whereas the 3 officers took turns with fellow officers going in and out of the burning building to save an elderly woman whose legs had been wedged behind the door. And whereas these officers assisted in escorting a 2nd-floor tenant out who attempted return to the burning building to save her pets. And whereas these officers assessed the situation and heroically jumped into action, helping to save the lives of 2 tenants. And be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen wish to join the citizens of Webster on this 11th day of January 2016 in recognizing Officer Spencer Donovan, Robert Larochelle, and James Young Sr. As you can tell by who's here, the citizens are proud to have these officers on our force, and we do commend them for their outstanding service. We also have Representative McKenna and Senator Fatman, who also have proclamations.
I took the opportunity to write letters to the 3 gentlemen, and the letter reads the same for all 3, so I'll read one as well. I would like to take a moment to thank you for your recent act of heroism as part of the rescue of a Webster resident from a burning fire. You have my deepest admiration and gratitude. With your colleagues, you fearlessly entered a building that was fully engulfed in flames to ensure the safety and well-being of a resident in need. While I suspect you might say it was simply in the line of duty, I must say that your humility in this case is misplaced, and this extraordinary deed should be commended. Furthermore, I would like to thank you for choosing to enter a field that requires such selfless dedication to ensure the safety of the entire community. This is a truly admirable job, and your service is appreciated, not only by me, but by the entire town of Webster. While it is an often quoted line, I find myself reflecting on the truth that all men are not created equal, only the finest become policemen. I consider myself honored to serve as state representative for such accomplished and courageous individuals, and hope that others look to your selfless leadership as an example for their own lives. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service to the citizens of Webster.
Just as a follow-up, as a state senator, I want to express my sincere respect and thanks for what you did and for what all of you do. We cannot be proud enough of the Webster Police Department, the sacrifices that you make day to day. I had some three citations that read similarly, so I'll read them all three the same. Be it known to all that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Officer Young, La Rochelle, and Donovan in recognition of your bravery and active courage in the line of duty. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends best wishes for continued success in all endeavors. I've had two experiences with the Webster Police Department personally. The first was during my campaign in 2012. I was out knocking on doors on School Street, and all of a sudden I found myself surrounded by cruisers. And apparently there was someone breaking and entering on School Street. I said, this is really not a good way to start a campaign. And I got a call from the chief saying, hey, just let us know next time when you're going around to the different neighborhoods. And the second time was late one night when my wife and I had a threat. And I can't say enough about the professionalism that the police department in this town operates under. It is something that makes me really proud to be a resident, and in the circumstances that we've seen over the course of the last few months, where police officers have proven that they have a very difficult job, you have Joe, my utmost respect. Thank you for what you do.
You officers want to say a few words? Spencer? Well, all I can say is keep up the good work. We're really proud of you, and it's not an easy job out there anymore. And, the board's behind you 110%. Believe me. Chief, do you want to say anything?
I think I'm good.
All right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, we have Dolores O'Donnell and Barbara Steiger for appointment to the Council on Aging. You ladies want to come up, introduce yourselves?
I am Dolores O'Donnell.
Have a seat, relax.
Thank you. I'm Barbara Steiger. I am the secretary of the Council of Aging.
All right.
I'm a member,
Yes.
just learning.
Yeah,
And
well,
it's
that
very
takes time.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But
Just
we
sit and
want
listen to the people with more experience, and then eventually
Yep.
they'll catch right on, and you'll be fine.
Yes.
And the board appreciates your volunteerism.
Yes.
And thank you. So, we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion
Questions?
to appoint Dolores O'Donnell and Barbara Steiger to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Hold the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure you get sworn in.
Okay.
See Mr. Craver get sworn in. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, next item, Deb Keefe. And Director's resignation from SWEC Board.
Well, thank you for letting me come before you this evening. I wanted to come before the Board of Selectmen because 2 years ago, you were generous enough to let me remain as your delegate to the SWEC committee to be on the Board of Directors for SWEC so that I could finish seeing the project get completed, we could open the doors, and because I had been so involved in it, and I hated to leave the Selectman seat and also lose all contact with the committees I was on. As it turned out, I saw the opening, and they just recently celebrated their 1-year anniversary, and I realized that I was still acting on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, and at some point I should probably make the gesture to resign the position and have a board member actually take over. The Board of Directors, first sweat, consists of the town administrators for the two towns, Dudley and Webster, the selectmen from Dudley, and I have been your representative as the selectman from Webster. The SWEC is actually starting to come into some big not issues, but big events. We recently met with a consulting firm, and we're meeting again with them on Thursday to talk to them about how to get that third town in, because we all know that that third town is a vital piece of information that we need to do. There's going to be a cost associated with that. There's also going to be rules and how to set up a new town when we do get the new town in. And I really thought that now was the time for me to step down and for a selectman to step forward, because these are pretty large financial decisions for the town of Webster. And I think as an elected official for Webster, it should be a board member and not necessarily a delegated member to be making these decisions. I did do the transition for the additional year because we had lost our town administrator, and I didn't want to just walk away and leave, and have somebody come in without any knowledge. Miss Ledoux has been there, and she's been great to, take over, and she's been there quite a while now, so she understands what's going on and how things are working and everything. So I felt this was actually the appropriate time for me to tender my resignation. What I did do was I did it as of March 11th, which means I will make this month's meeting. Unfortunately, I won't be around for next month's meeting, but I will make the March meeting, and I figured this would give time for somebody to be appointed by the board, and that they then could, they could transition in, and I'd be happy to help them with the transition and everything, so that they could be a little bit more familiar with what was going on. But I thought by March,
All right,
I should be pretty much
as usual,
done.
thank you for your assistance.
You're welcome.
It seems like you always step up to the plate.
It's been fun.
And you
It's a
started this
great
right from the
project.
get-go.
Yeah.
And when are the meetings?
They are held the second Thursday of every month from 10 to 11:30 in the morning.
So it'd have to be selectmen that
Or the boards would have to,
works in town.
all the board members would have
retired
to
or something.
decide to change. Yeah.
Or retired.
Or retire.
Any questions of Ms. Keith?
Well, again, I'm just disappointed well, not disappointed, but sad to see you go, rather, because, I know that you were very influential in that and amongst many other projects, and, I think obviously that's why you were our go-to girl when we needed a voice on that board. So, again, thank you, and, hopefully we can stay in communication if you have further ideas to bring in that third town.
I'd certainly like to also express thanks to Deb. She's been right there from the beginning and just done an incredible job, so
Thank you.
thank you. And maybe we won't accept your resignation, and you'll have to stay on.
Well, that's a thought.
That is a thought, but I really,
We're not that close.
you do have an alternate in Mr. Bork. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to make the meetings, and I do know that, Dudley frequently has their primary and their alternate at their meetings, which is very helpful, because then when someone can't make it, the other person knows what's happening and they understand everything that the Board of Directors is trying to do. And the Board of Directors are the one that approve the policies. They approve, they're above everyone. The operating board reports to them, so that's the final say, and we've developed it that way on purpose, so that you have the hierarchy, you have the director, you have the dispatchers, you have the director, you have the operations board, and then you have the Board of Directors. So, the sooner someone can get in and start understanding what's being done and how it's being done would be really beneficial for this board, so.
All right, so we'll put on the next agenda, Courtney.
But again, I thank you. I mean, you put your trust in me, and I hope I served it well for 2 years, but I'd love to see the members get involved at this point.
Thank you,
So,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, Thai Lemongrass LLC, BYOB, license application. Are they required to be in front of us? No.
Well, this was continued from the last meeting because the establishment was not open yet. They have opened, they received all their approvals from our inspectional services team, fire department, building commissioner, and our health inspector. So it's up to the board, according to your policy, with a vote. If you vote to approve their BYOB license, you also need to set hours for that license. And if the board chooses to approve their application, I would also ask that you include in your motion that this is effective only until they are granted their liquor license for which they have already applied to the state.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
Just a question, when do they expect to open?
They are open.
They are open now.
Well, Courtney, you said they have a
Soft
soft opening. They haven't had a grand
Grand
opening yet.
So this will just be effectively a temporary license until they granted their full-term
Correct.
liquor license, which
Correct.
is being processed, I assume?
Yes.
Yes.
This is the format that we approved that was based off of a different town that we just went over a couple weeks ago, right? So,
Yes, you
And
approved it
they're-
recently.
okay.
They filled out the application. They worked with Courtney to get all their information to her and with the liquor license also, so.
Great, well, I'll make a motion to approve.
And what hours you want to set the hours of a regular liquor license?
So let's, I'll make a motion to approve pending,
I'm sorry, Selectman Stars, Courtney has their hours of operation, so you may
Okay.
want to,
thank you. 7:39. Actually, as a point of discussion, we should probably try to be uniform and actually amend our policy, I would think. Or should we be basing this off of the average hours that we do for liquor license? Obviously, they're not gonna serve past, what's the cutoff, 1 or 2 for liquor licenses. I mean, that's a given, but as far as any other.
I would think we could follow what the liquor license
Yeah,
policy
make it
is, right?
uniform.
I think they close at 11.
Yeah.
and I think that was discussed during the vetting process when the board was vetting the policy itself, that you didn't want to put set hours in the policy to give yourself the flexibility, maybe by establishment.
So could we vote it to say in accordance with their hours of, their
Yes,
noted
that would
hours of
be,
operation?
absolutely.
They're listed hours, because if they change them, then we need to reapprove it.
We will include that with the,
Because they could say next week, well, we're gonna be open until 3 a.m.
Right.
You said that we could, so, yeah, pending these hours.
yeah, we will include that with their permit.
And so we have a motion, we have a second.
A second, and then just to include the mention that up until the full-time
Until
liquor
they're-
license is
mhm.
approved.
Any other discussion? Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsky?
Yes.
Selectman Jordan?
Yes.
Selectman Tagevich?
Yes. Acting Town Administrator's Report.
Short and sweet tonight, gentlemen. I handed out my report to you. I met with Mr. Mark Reel, District Director for Senator Ryan Fatman, on Wednesday, December 30th. I held a department head meeting on Monday, January 4th, to kick off the FY 2017 budget season. I met with Mr. Walt Riley, he's the sales manager for Smart Shopper, on Monday, January 4th, and we discussed the possibility of partnering to provide a no-cost local informational publication to Webster residents. He provided me with some publications that he was involved with doing in the Connecticut region, and it's something that I'd like to consider for the town of Webster. Met with Chief Bent and Lieutenant Shaw on Wednesday, January 6th, to discuss police operational issues. I met with the Community Development Director, Sear, Highway Superintendent Pizzetti, and representatives from NOAA and Wind Management. On Thursday, January 7th, we discussed winter parking concerns. And I attended a Police Fire Building Committee meeting on Thursday, January 7th. Under departmental updates and announcements, the FY16 third quarter actual real estate and personal property tax bills, everyone got that, Merry Christmas. And they're due on Monday, February 1st. Water Department, and I think this is significant, Water Superintendent Kraus reports that the department received a total of 8 water quality complaints during the month of December. During that period of time, we all remember it well, not too long ago, they were receiving between 5 and 30 calls a day for dirty water, and they received a total of 8. So fortunately, those measures we have taken recently, the ice pigging, our fall flushing, the cleaning of the Park Road tank, and the Station 1 changes, modifications have worked. They are working, and we know that we're not at the end yet. We know what the end is going to be, and that is building the plant. We have received acknowledgement from Mass DEP that we are in full compliance with the administrative consent order, and I have requested formal notification of the same. Again, kudos to our water department and those employees. I don't think that Mr. Joe Patterson slept during during the summer and fall. And they've just done a wonderful job. And again, if you have dirty water, continue to call them, and they need to log that information. That's an ongoing process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's a pleasure of the board.
Motion to accept the town administrator's report.
Second.
Discussion?
Real quick, can we discuss the police operational issues, or is that something saved for executive session?
It was just general. We just had a meeting. We hadn't met in a couple of weeks with all the holidays and everything, and we just wanted to get together and talk about what was going on and where we go from here. And the chief and lieutenant and I will be staying in contact, and we'll be talking about those issues. The chief is very good at keeping me updated on those things that I feel that the board needs to be aware of. So that's where we are.
Very good, thank you.
Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. Webster Gas Corp. No one's here, okay. 14 Kenneth Ave. Vote to sign release of easement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It seems that we voted this 10 ways to Sunday, but Attorney Brown likes to dot every I and cross every T, which is what we pay him for. And this has already been approved by town meeting, it's been approved by the Board of Selectmen, and this is now just a vote for you actually to sign the final document. That's all this is. Everything has been approved, like I said, 10 ways to Sunday, so.
So this is just a redundancy for,
That's all this is, rather than just having you sign it, which would be fine also. We just want to make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, so we're actually going to have you take a vote to sign it, so.
Make a motion to vote to sign the release of easement for 14 Kenneth Avenue.
second.
Discussion? Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes. Next item under old business, Day Street, 8 Day Street, discussion.
The chief is here, I think he wants to speak to that, yes? The chief sent a couple of letters. This last time, the letter that was sent certified return receipt. The owners of the property at 8 Day Street failed to acknowledge the correspondence and return receipt. We never received it, so obviously they never picked it up. The chief, rightfully so, is extremely concerned about this property, being that it is right next door to one of our local parochial schools. And this has been an ongoing problem, very concerning problems that are happening at that address, and with absolutely no acknowledgement from the landlord whatsoever. So, Chief, if you want to.
Well, I had forwarded the board a copy of the letter that I sent. This is the second narcotic search warrant that we have served at this property. I did send a letter prior to that to this landlord as well. She's from New Hampshire. To my knowledge, she received the first letter. Again, that was a year and a half ago or so. This letter, I got no acknowledgement that she received it, but in speaking with the town administrator, you know, I have a great deal of concern, and it's this landlord's responsibility to correspond with me and get back with me, and they have done nothing. I think she should be brought before the board. I think you should speak to her as well.
Well, what's shocking is that there's actually surveillance cameras in it.
Well, again,
And,
yeah.
Obviously, this is the type of absentee landlords that we need to go after, and I would suggest to the board that we subpoena her in front of us and let her explain herself and what she's planning on doing to rectify the situation. because we do have subpoena power.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume we'd be able to hire a sheriff in New Hampshire and have it delivered.
I would think, yes.
Certainly agree with that.
Want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to that extent.
I'll second.
Motion and second, discussion?
So through the chair, if I could, a few things. So first of all, Chief, I mean, kudos on the letter. It's very well written. Am I led to believe that this is really as bad as this sounds? Because this sounds pretty bad as
Yes.
far as grow rooms and all sorts of other, it's
Yes.
that bad. So with that said, is there any extra accountability on the part of the individuals who actually committed the crimes being that close to a school? Because I thought if you have a grow room next to a school, they're really going to throw the book at you, or am I mistaken in that?
They've been charged accordingly, and as you know, I mean, that's pretty much out of our hands, and that's up to the court.
Yeah.
But they've been charged accordingly, this individual. To my knowledge, he's still living there. Again, we had a group, many citizen complaints, obviously, for the traffic coming in and out of there. Again, the cameras there were a great concern to me, and you know, obviously there was counter surveillance, if you will, going on there, and it's very disturbing.
I think the biggest concern, drug dealing aside, as bad as it is, having it next to a school obviously is an entirely different issue of bringing that element next to people's children, which just is terrifying, so.
And
yeah,
being that this is the second time.
And the second time on top of it, yeah. I mean, it's just, I couldn't believe it when I read the detail of this letter, so.
Mhm.
Well, obviously Elijah and Jamie Badeau from 22 Monroe Hollow Road, Litchfield, New Hampshire, they don't really care.
Mr. Chairman, the chief and I are also researching perhaps a bylaw. We are aware of in other communities that have adopted bylaws with regard to absentee landlords and their responsibility in situations such as this. There are some cities who have ordinances, and I believe there are other towns that have adopted similar bylaws. So we are researching that, and if we find something that fits for Webster, then we'll definitely come forward with that and ask that town meeting approve something like that.
Now, have you touched base with town council yet to see what other powers we or they may have to try to rectify this?
No, I have not.
Because I think that should definitely be an included step as well.
So now I see the DEA was involved. I'm assuming it was a task force. Why didn't they charge them federally? Any
They didn't
idea?
adopt the case, it wasn't big enough.
All right.
Without disclosing any evidence, was there any culpability with the landlords knowing that there was a surveillance? Was it done with their
Again, that would
permission,
probably
or
be something, Mr. Becker, that we can ask the landlord, but
when we get them here?
if we can speak with her, yeah.
In the meantime, I'm assuming the best you can probably do is just try to have a patrol there once in a while. I mean, you know the hot spots, you're keeping eyes on it, and that's really all we can do is babysit.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, thanks for everything you're doing, and we'll try to do our part too.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jordan?
Yes.
Selectman Duganich?
Yes. Thank you.
You want us to wait?
I'm sorry?
Do you have other things you want us to wait?
No, that was it, right? Did I have something else that I forgot?
Swinging chicken,
Oh, yes.
and then perhaps bus stops.
Yes, these are some of the operational issues and that, thank you for being my memory, Chief, because I'm losing it. These are some of the issues that the lieutenant and the chief and I discussed during our meeting. There was an incident that occurred, was it actually New Year's Eve? Christmas Eve. Night, up at Swinging Chicken up on Lake Street, which involved a local gang.
Well, let me take it.
And it was
We had
a,
a serious incident in the bar. It ended up being a stabbing. I'm sure you might have read about it in the paper. During the course of our investigation, we were able to determine that a local group was involved. We have a great deal of concern at this point about these things and these things happening in our local establishments. And in speaking with the town administrator, we felt you being, the Board of Selectmen and you being ultimately in charge of the license and whatnot, that perhaps, the town administrator had come up with perhaps a letter from the board to this establishment. We've seen it before in other communities. We've seen it in other bars that, maybe no colors. A letter from you saying that, suggesting to the owner of this bar that no colors be allowed in. Now, no colors being, I can't wear my uniform, so to speak, into this establishment.
I wonder if we could do a town-wide bylaw on that.
So Chief, could you speak to
We
the
can look
incident a
into
little
that.
further, just so we have some more information?
We had again, it's still an active investigation, so I won't go into too many details. We had an individual in the bar. A fight broke out. This individual ended up fighting with other members. He was beaten. He was stabbed in the bar. We were able to see that on video.
The owner of the establishment
Very
cooperated and-
responsible. The owner of the
Absolutely.
establishment is responsible and very cooperative. And, we asked for the tapes. We have a right to see the tapes. We asked for them. We viewed them. The investigation is ongoing. Charges probably forthcoming. We interviewed as many people as we could. Thankfully, he wasn't injured critically. He was, taken to the hospital and treated for a few stab wounds. But again, this is a great concern to us.
Now, do you feel that there was an over-serving component that would have led to something like this? Because, it'd be pretty easy to say if these individuals had it up for each other, down at the French River Park, same thing could have happened. So just trying to get some background on where the culpability lies of the business owner.
Having no evidence of that, I probably wouldn't comment on an over-serving issue, because if that were the case, we would have certainly presented that before you, being that you are the licensing authority.
So it seems like at this point, we probably should wait for the investigation to conclude before we decide to make any action, since we can't really discuss all the facts openly from what I gather, if that's...
Is there something you'd recommend?
Again, I'm recommending that, the board send a letter to the owner of the establishment, perhaps posting that, it is of concern of the board as a licensing authority, perhaps posting in this establishment that no colors are allowed.
I don't feel, and I think that the chief and the lieutenant will agree, I don't think that this is meant to be at all punitive against the establishment or the owner. As they said, very responsible, cooperated from day one. This may be a way to reach out and maybe help the owner. If he gets a letter from the local licensing authority strongly suggesting that he post no colors in his establishment, that might help him. He will post it, and that might help him to keep this kind of thing out of his establishment, because I'm sure he doesn't want any of this either. This is in no way, I don't believe, meant to be a liquor violation or
No.
anything like that. Then the chief's not coming before you in that capacity or to recommend that at all. It's just so nothing like this happens again.
So with the posting of such a letter, would that assist him should someone either come in, they can be charged with trespassing if they don't leave right away? Make it easier?
It
For
makes it
police to do
easier
that?
for him to control that type of atmosphere, if you will.
And has this been discussed with the owner?
I have not, I don't know
It
if
has
it's,
not.
So by colors, you're referring to gang colors as far as like if the Latin Kings wear purple or whatever type of signatures they have to identify themselves.
And some would have, more obvious jackets.
Well, because that's my thought, that a section, I guess, not to point at one group, but, biker clubs, I suppose, will typically have their,
Correct.
okay, so
And
that's,
those would be colors.
okay,
Yeah.
so.
So now, do you recommend we send a letter to every bar in town?
Yes.
So you can't just do one, right?
No, it would probably make sense to do all of them.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
And again, I don't think this should be looked at as punitive. This is the board trying to help these
I think it should
properties.
be a PSA in a sense. I mean,
Establishment owners.
Informative, here's the issue we had, do yourselves a favor and not bring bad publicity.
So when the local Blue Knights come in, they,
Right, typically out in, like, Worcester venues, they have posted dress codes that the doormen are told to enforce, no do-rags, no cut-off T-shirts, stuff like that, because if you enforce the dress code, you tend to get a little bit better compliance from the patrons.
well, 9 out of 10 times, they won't want to take
Right.
off their
Right, and if
coat,
they
so they'll go
don't,
to
then
another
they,
town
then
and
they have the
everything,
right
so.
to refuse entry into the establishment.
All right, so what's the board want to do?
I'd make a motion to make a general reference in the letter of the issues that have occurred in town, and to send them to all of the owners of establishments in town with liquor licenses.
As a way to say, here's something that you can do to prevent future incidences from occurring in your establishment, or to prevent.
There is a bar on Thompson Road that already enforces that and already does that and already has that posted, no colors, and it has worked out well for them.
And we would ask them to post this, I assume, in a conspicuous place.
Right,
for
and
the
my thought
patrons.
is to word it, you know, so as not to sound discriminatory, but rather from the point of a decency dress code, if you will, that will.
Well, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any more discussion? Pull the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsky?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Duggan?
Yes.
And, Mr. Chairman, the last thing was, and we've had this discussion when we discussed removing the benches from down by the railroad tracks, and that is bus stops here in town. We have no signed bus stop areas here in town. The owner of a local business right here on, actually Lake Street, but her driveway runs down to South Main Street, is having significant issues with loitering, I'm gonna call it loitering, waiting for the bus down at the end of her driveway, to the fact where her husband can't even get in the driveway. They are disrespectful, they won't move, they're making a mess. And there used to be a sign down near St. Anne's Sacred Heart Church, in front of Sacred Heart Church, but it's gone now. So Lieutenant Shaw, you were supposed to contact WRTA, did you do so?
Yes, I been playing phone tag with the, I got a message from the operations manager today. Cities and towns outside of Worcester are on what's called flag down routes. So there aren't any per se bus stops or signed bus stops like we had hoped, like we used to have. People pretty much just stand on the route, on the way the bus goes, and they just flag the bus down. That's how they do it outside of the city. I haven't been able to have a conversation as to the possibility of getting a bus stop put back in. I know that the bus stops down at Davis Street, like it always has since I've been here, and waits, and people load up there. And then I know that the new congregation place is out here in front of the hair salon, so.
And they probably come down from the factory.
Yeah, when I used to go to the gym, they would stop off in the morning and they walk down Peter Street, and that's where they come and wait out there.
We know what a problem it became down there by the tracks. That problem seemed to be alleviated a little bit with removing the benches, which unfortunately we had to do because that's part of our beautification project of downtown. And now this is becoming a problem for that hair salon, and also the owner of the other hair salon whose driveway lives there. And we need to do something to address their concerns, because they are legitimate concerns. Do we have the right to post our own bus stops, and will they abide by it?
I'm gonna try to get in touch with him and speak to him again tomorrow.
Okay.
We've been just missing each other, and I'll get an answer for you.
Okay, so that's what we're working on. We're trying to see if we can set up, 3 bus stops in town, and that's it, and be done with it.
Put it right in front of the police station, right on camera.
So that's what
All
we're
right, so you'll
working
get
on.
back to us on that?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
hopefully have an answer tomorrow.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any other old business? New business? Memorial Beach Advisory Committee. leave me out to dry.
Oh, thanks. So, Selectman Jolda actually approached me to ask whether we'd like to be on the agenda, because we had, one of our members had been speaking with him about kind of where we are and some frustrations that the committee has been expressing. So, I don't know if you want me to start by maybe giving you an idea of
Sure.
what we've done and kind of where our frustrations lie. So, we've had a total of 7 meetings, one of which was tonight, so 6 meetings before that, including our organizational meeting. So at that meeting, we wrote a mission statement and we set some meeting dates and we started to sort of brainstorm what we thought the committee might work on. We know that the fees were high on the agenda for residents of the town as to, something that a lot of people are concerned about. So we knew that we would be working on that. But we also spent some time, and maybe we got a little off track possibly. We spent some time kind of brainstorming how we thought we could enhance the beach so that we could bring in more users and therefore possibly be able to reduce fees for the residents, because that seems to be something that a lot of residents would enjoy. So we spent some time at a couple of meetings talking about possible enhancements, everything from, just improving minor things like picnic tables and grills, and maybe adding a few small enhancements like a volleyball court and horseshoe pits and that type of thing to, much larger, pie in the sky sort of ideas of how we could really make this a destination for this area. In November, at our meeting, some people came. It's an open meeting, and they came to talk to us. I wasn't at that meeting myself, which is another issue I'll discuss with you later, but people from the ADA committee? ADA committee came to talk about access issues at the beach. It's hard for disabled individuals to get from the parking lot to the water.
To the beach line.
Right. We also, the Webster Lake Association came to the meeting after that. ADA was at this meeting, and we also talked about how there's other committees working on beach issues, like the master plan committee, and so we weren't sure how we would be duplicating or attempting to interact with whatever might be going on at those committees. And we started talking about how to prioritize some of the topics that we had come up with at our first couple of meetings. In December, more people came to the meeting. Paul LaFramboise came to talk about how he could assist us in, whatever projects we thought might be enhancements for the beach. I wasn't at this meeting as well. Webster Lake Association was there, and they had an idea for a project that they want done at the beach. They want a pavilion built down there, and they talked to our committee about that and the possibility of them working with the committee on that. At that meeting, we did identify 6 areas that we thought were important to address. The fees and stickers, the signage that's down there, improving the walking track by having some water available, the small enhancements I talked about with the volleyball, the picnic tables, the location of the booth, and handicap access. Now that brought us to the beginning of December, so at that point we've spent 2 months and, in my opinion, haven't accomplished a whole lot. December 17th, we had a long discussion about how to start making more progress on what we really, coming up with a recommendation for the board. We discussed the frustration of some of the committee members at the lack of progress that we were making. We had gotten some information from Pam in November about financial information that we had asked for and she brought to us. We asked her, we parsed through that information, and it's difficult you have the beach and the compost grouped together. And we sell a sticker that gives people access to both, and then we have these pot of expenses that are both together. And we don't really know what would happen if we broke that apart. How many stickers would you sell if it was just the beach? How many people are only using the compost? How many are wanting to use both? We don't know how many people come into the beach every day. We know that a lot of people walk into the beach during the day. So we don't have a good way of getting a handle around how many people are using the beach. Some of the expenses are only beach-related, obviously, but some encompass both, and that's because we don't have a Parks and Rec director anymore. We use the DPW to manage those types of things at the beach, and so part of that fee, in a way, goes on to the, part of those expenses go on to the beach. Those expenses would not go away if you didn't have a beach. Those people would be working for the DPW whether you had a beach or not. So several of the committee members who feel that we aren't making much progress and are busy doing a lot of other things have said that they're not sure they want to continue on the committee. We're not sure where we stand or what we can tell you. We have some general ideas of where we think we should go, but we can't base it on any real concrete data. For instance, we feel that we should have a daily fee for residents. Right now, we only have resident stickers. But we don't know how many residents would come in if there was a daily fee, and we don't know what to charge them. We think $5 might be a reasonable amount, but we have nothing to base that on. We really don't have any concrete way of determining whether that fee is reasonable, whether it would take away from sticker sales greatly, whether it would actually provide more revenue. We're not sure. We know there's a lot of walk-in traffic. We think walk-in people should be charged, but the way it's set up now, where the booth is away from the bridge there, and people can come through that bridge area and spread out and walk through, there's no way for the gate people to manage that. We think those walk-in people are still visiting the beach, and they're still creating a need for lifeguards and beach house and everything else that we're spending money on down there, but we don't know how to address that situation with where we stand right now. We think that, did you want to say something?
No, I'd just like to say that when we all joined this committee, we expected to be able to do things for the upcoming season for the 2016 season. And we really had only our own ideas of what we thought was needed at the beach, what we thought could be changed, what we thought could be added. Some of us had, I think, visions of grandeur, where this would be a committee that would be here 5 and 10 years from now, and that we're going to build a Six Flags at the beach, and that's unrealistic. And so we really had no ideas from the town what we actually should look at and what we should pursue for this year. Because I think personally that what we want to do is do something for this year and bring you the ideas that we all have. And we've got a tremendous list of ideas beyond what we're talking about here. And I think we didn't have guidance telling us what do you want for the beach for next year. And this has been a problem. It's been a frustrating point in that we get off on all kinds of subjects, all kinds of points at the beach, and we don't know if we're doing it right. We don't know if it's going to be acceptable. We don't know if it's worthwhile. We don't know where the funding is going to come from, if there is any funding for it. And so we're in kind of turmoil between our own group as to how to move forward.
Well, it's like that in every group. Diane can tell you, she's been on enough committees, FinCom, and even with the Board of Selectmen, it's the same way. You always have, thoughts that, we could probably get this done, but unless everyone's together on it, it doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen overnight.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you looking for our thoughts to help prioritize? Because, I jotted down the 6 items that you mentioned, and all of those seem to be good items to prioritize and things we might be able to get done for the opening of the year.
Maybe. The problem is that we need to order beach stickers. I was told in February. That seems, I was shocked by that, but that it would take 2 months to order stickers. I could give you the names of vendors maybe.
We have people coming in now who want to purchase stickers for
Right, and
the
so
year.
originally, I mean, so at our last meeting, we talked a long time about the stickers and we thought it might make sense to break the sticker out, to have
Absolutely.
a beach sticker and have a compost sticker. And then to start to break apart the expenses and have the two departments separated. We thought that made a lot of sense. But we don't know what to charge. We have no idea what to recommend as a charge because we don't know how many people buy a sticker because they want to go to the beach, or how many people buy one for the compost, or how many people use both. So, I mean, we could throw a number out there and we could just run with it for the year, but we would just be guessing. We would be guessing, I guess, possibly based on what other lakes in the area charge. Now, you have to understand that our lake is not offering the kind of pleasurable activities that maybe Wallem or Aquatic is offering, where they have grills and picnic tables, and Buffinville has those. So I don't think you'd be wanting to charge the kind of fee they're charging. But let's say we threw out $20 or $25. We have no idea what that's going to do. Do you want to run with an idea like that and just see what happens this year? The other option is to make this an information gathering year. When someone comes in to buy a sticker, ask them, are you going to be using the beach? Are you going to be using the compost? Do you plan to use both? Start tracking the number of cars that come through the gate. I don't know whether you could put one of those little strips across there that measures the cars, or whether I don't even know what the traffic is like, whether there would be time for the gatekeepers to just mark down how many cars are coming through. We don't know how many cars come through. Once a person has a sticker, we don't know if they're visiting once a year or whether they're coming down there every day. We don't know.
So the first thing you want to do is generate numbers on how many people actually use the beach.
So
that
I
would
guess
be-
my recommendation is we could go one of two ways. We could make this an information gathering year where we start gathering numbers on how many people are using the beach, or we could break apart the stickers, pull a number out of thin air, and see where that leaves us next year. But we could end up more in the hole that way because we really don't know what number to select. So the committee is kind of at a standstill now, not knowing what to do next about the beach fees. And we really need to make a decision because several weeks we're going to be ordering stickers.
So through the chair, I have a few things. First of all, I want to thank both of you for taking part in the committee. I know obviously this is a pretty heated issue for a lot of people in town for the great resources that we do have. And I think, Diane, you've just done a fabulous job outlining a litany of questions, which probably makes all of this conversation more difficult, but they are all things that should be addressed because we all deserve to have a nice facility. With that said, let me start first with, it was my understanding that the group itself is looking for more membership.
Part of the reason for that is because the members that are on the committee we have Paul Brinkley, who's very busy at work, and so he doesn't make every meeting. I had a situation with my mother who lives in Colorado where I've had to go out there several times quickly. I'm going to have to go out several more times this spring. We're helping her move we're helping her move. And so I've had to miss meetings. I can try to plan around that better now, but Robert Frederickson is also quite busy and it doesn't make every meeting. So having that small committee of 5 people, several of whom are busy with and not able to make every meeting, does make it a little more difficult, I think.
So I would think that the first priority for both you and us is to get probably 2 more members on that committee to balance that out, because if you can't meet, then nothing's going to happen.
Right.
And then furthermore, it sounds like once you can establish a good meeting of the minds and determine what is our highest priority objective, is it the fees, is it the activities, the cleanup, or what have you. And then to speak to the point of the stickers, I do think you're right on that, time constraints of ordering stickers and government moving slow and trying to figure out information probably is looking like it might be a year of gathering information. But with that said, if the stickers haven't been ordered yet, I would research to see if we could maybe institute a barcode system on them, because if we could scan them when they come in, we can tell you that, you know, sticker A has come here 15 times this year, and so on and so forth, if there is some type of technology like that. So maybe we would defer to our IT director.
I'm looking at him and he's ignoring
Yeah,
me.
I think
He can
watching
feel me
YouTube right
staring
now.
at him and he's
Stop watching
ignoring
YouTube,
my
Greg, I know what
stare.
you're up to.
He's ignoring my stare, but,
But I would wonder if
We
that's
actually
a
talked at
effective
one of
way.
our meetings, we talked at great length at one of our meetings, and Ms. Keefe brought some information. We talked early on about a different way of managing the fee collection. They have, we talked about possibly having an electronic system of some sort where you would come through and a gate would go up. Or we talked about having a system like they have over at Purgatory, where there's, you know, you're buying a ticket and putting it on your windshield. I do think that if we're going to talk about enhancing the beach and moving forward a few years out, that we probably want to think about moving to something like that, if we can generate the usage to justify that. We thought that made sense, but again, we'd be reticent to recommend that, given where we stand now with the lack of concrete information that we have.
Hey, here's what Diane's talking about. One of the things I was very surprised at when I did research was the tolls you do, like when you go to the airport, and you get a sticker when you go in, and when you're exiting there or at the hospital or something, and there's somebody at the gate collecting the money. If you have a town beach sticker, obviously your tag would be free. The cost of those booths, believe it, is surprisingly, were not that expensive. And what we had talked about, that's one of our 6 priorities, was to, obviously, the location where you enter the beach right now, and you get your stickers and everything, it's really not working. It's just too far from the entrance of the location, you know. And I know that's a reason why it was moved and stuff, but the thought would be is do multiple booths and make a walking lane so that people that go in, because that's one of the biggest things we heard was, why do walkers get in for free? They park on Thompson Road, they block up the traffic. So that was one of the things we looked at, and surprisingly, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they weren't that expensive. And I think I was very surprised, and they come heated, they come air conditioned, they go, you know, all of this. So that was one of the things we had looked at for like in a year or two, is actually probably a year that we were talking about, is moving that booth back to the front and changing the way people access the beach.
So you're talking like right underneath the bridge and then
Well,
come down
shortly after-
with
shortly after the
fences,
entrance to the bridge and
so
stuff.
there's nowhere to walk in between.
Yeah.
So what would happen with the walking path?
Right.
Well,
that's why
that's
we
another
moved it.
question, and there are people that feel that the walking track should require some fee, and other people that don't agree, so.
that's why we moved it in the first place,
Right.
was because of that.
And there's some perception that this should be a beach complex, and that we should be doing enhancements at the beach. And part of that beach complex would include the walking track for residents, or you pay a fee to get in. I don't know what the board, you know, we don't know what the board's feeling on that is, but one of the thoughts was, for this to be an attraction, and one of the things we've all agreed is that we want to attract people there, you need to start doing enhancements to get people to go down to the beach. And so, you know, if we make it a complex, where do you put that booth? And that's, we kind of said, we know we need to move the booth, but we pushed it off the side because we knew we weren't going to get that done this year. So it was just in discussion, we got some pricing and stuff, and that was it for this year. But it comes down to, what is the board's direction? Do you want this to be a beach complex with, you know, with a gazebo and a, you know, really nice concession stand and a concert location, you know, and a walking track, or do you want it to be something else? And we're not sure where do you want to go with this? What do you want the beach to look like? So if we talk about it, at least we know we're on the same page.
Well, it's what do the residents want it to look like? I mean, we're just we're the ones moving the leash. I mean, we're not the dog here, you know, they're the ones kind of pulling us along. So it really is, it's a town-wide decision.
It is, and what is, you know, also, what's going on at the master plan committee with regard to the beach? Because the beach is also included in the master plan, so is there overlap and duplication happening here?
And that's another thing we spoke about, because I'm on both committees. So I'm on Beach Advisory Committee, and I'm on the Master Plan Beach and Recreation Implementation Committee. I'm not sure what I'm implementing, but I'm on that committee, so it's like I go to this committee meeting and we talk about what we think we would want to recommend, or what do we want to recommend, and then I have this other committee that we've only met twice, and that was only 2 members. We need to meet now that the holidays are done. But what are we trying to implement? Because this committee's working their tail off, and we've got another committee that's, I'm not sure, they're not just looking at beach, they're looking at beach and parks. But does this committee work on it and then throw it over to the master plan committee and say, okay, this is what we think, now talk to the board about implementing? It's become a little bit redundant between the 2 committees, so.
Well, it might be in future years that you have to go more to the capital planning committee when you need to spend capital. You know, maybe in the next year or 2, you're not looking to spend as much capital. You know, for instance, are we gonna do anything to offer food there? You know, or should we have canteen trucks? Should we ask McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, one of the 3, you pick it, maybe we don't charge them anything. And they just come in, but they're responsible for whatever.
And we've discussed all of those items. But when we start discussing that stuff, then we're way out here, and we haven't even started down here yet. So that's where our frustration really lies. Are you envisioning this as a standing committee going forward, or is this a committee that's supposed to meet for a year and give a recommendation and go away? We're not even sure.
I can only speak for myself, but mine was for a long-term committee. My thoughts, well, first of all, my thoughts are probably this year we get the numbers, seeing what's going in and out. So this way you know what you're dealing with. But my thoughts, and I brought up at a few meetings with some of my ideas down there, and those would be to self-fund the beach so that we could do a lot more down there. We would have the income, like boat docks, do RFPs for boat docks down in the lagoon.
You talking about that too?
You know, we could conceivably raise $50,000 a year by slips.
But as a group of, citizens who don't know the first thing about where to even start with a project like that, we're not the group that's going to get you a marina down there.
No.
We don't have the time nor the expertise to work on something like that.
No, and I think
it's
that
on long range, that something like that could fully fund the whole area down there to add.
But how do we get from here to there? That's our concern.
I think your first step would be to find out how many people are actually using it, and then you're gonna get a fee base, and then we'll work from that on next year.
Compost too, and that's why I think, if it's feasible, my idea with the little scanner, I mean, you just add a barcode to the sticker, that's basically free. You buy a scanner or 2 for the compost, and then for the people that work the gate, they come and you scan it, boom, it links up with exactly what sticker number that is, and we can track what car was there, how many times they've been there, what time. I mean, that's a lot of valuable data.
I think it's extremely important, based upon our experiences, to separate out those 2, the compost from the beach. We have had issues with registrations of commercial vehicles. They're not allowed to compost, but, really, what do we care if it goes down to the beach? Those kind of things, and we need to separate out those 2 so that those issues don't.
So based off of that comment, then you would not recommend a compost beach dual? You would be you'd buy compost, you'd buy beach?
That's what I would recommend.
Or you buy them both.
Absolutely.
So I think, where the direction this discussion's going, I think it would behoove us to have a public hearing. I mean, I know that you don't feel your group has accomplished a lot, but I think you have. And I think that these ideas should be brought to light, and you could probably do it the way we did the master plan, where people came in, they put a vote for this idea, they put a vote for this idea, and we could at least get a little sliver of an idea of what some people are looking for.
I think the first thing we have to do is increase the use of the beach. And I'm at the beach, I say almost every day of the year. And I'm there in the summertime and on the weekends, and there's not a whole lot of use made of that beach. And you can't keep a concession stand going up there. You can't even offer it to anybody if there's nobody there that's going to use it.
The beach has a bad reputation, and I'm not sure why that is. When I talk to people about going to the beach, I get a lot of comments that the beach is dirty and people wouldn't go. I don't think that's true, but for some reason, that's the reputation, that's the perception that people have. So I agree with Ray. We need to increase usage, but I'm not sure how we do that. How do we get people down there to show them? And once they're there, the shape the beach is in now,
Right.
it's hard to recommend that people come down and spend the day.
But I think the beach has come a long way since implementing that additional, the sticker used to be $5, now it's $35. That was the only way that we could fund some of those improvements that have happened down there. I mean, we've replaced all of the playground equipment. We've replaced and added beach sand. We did spend some money in the concession stand with new kitchen equipment. And we offered it for nothing, for someone to come in and run it for nothing. And the only time it was used last year was when myself and the rec committee did it for the fireworks.
Right, so.
That was it.
We did discuss this as well. A lot of the things I'm telling you now, we haven't taken votes on. These are just discussion items. So we did discuss the idea of offering it free to town groups. So the rec committee wanted to do it. Maybe the Lassie League might want to run it, for a month. Maybe the Boy Scouts might want to run it for a month as a fundraiser for themselves. We've talked about that as being a possibility. I think it's tough to sell it as an idea for someone running a business who wants to make a profit off of it and has to hire employees. But if it's all volunteer labor and they take home whatever they make, it could be attractive to people. I absolutely think that having the sticker only and not having a daily fee keeps attendance low. When the sticker was $1 or $5 is what it was when my kids were little, we bought a sticker and we went down there all the time. I think if you had a daily fee, people might go once or twice and see that it's fun, that there is nice playground equipment there, that it isn't dirty, and that there is something to do down there.
And just to clarify on the daily fee, we have a daily fee for non-residents.
Right.
We don't have a daily fee for residents.
Right.
So, myself an example, I haven't bought a sticker in years. I bought one a few years ago. I went once. I paid $35. I went down actually to help out the, one of the group that's with the kids, and I had to buy the sticker to get in the door. So I paid the $35, I went once. But there are times that if I had to pay $5 to get in, I might go down there more often, but I just don't have a tendency to come and buy the sticker. Not that I think we definitely need a fee there. But, if it's a point of, geez, I'm going by and I want to go spend a couple hours at the beach, or I think of it on a day and I say, hey, I put the afternoon off, it's gorgeous, go down to the lake. If I could just do that for $5 and not have to worry about going down to get a sticker, I very well might do that. So we're thinking for residents, if we do I think we just hashed over $5.
Again, picking that out of thin air.
But we did a little bit of comparison, somebody had 9, somebody, So if you say, okay, it's gonna be a $5 fee to get in, if you wanna just do a daily resident. So if you have a registration for Webster and it shows that that's your vehicle and you wanna go in, fine, $5. You don't wanna come down and buy a sticker. It's cheaper to buy the sticker if you're gonna use it, but.
That's easy to implement.
So you would just
Well,
to
the
be,
problem is you have people, well, they deal with cash now anyway, so yes.
just to be clear, you would offer a seasonal pass, both like a non-resident, separate higher fee, resident lower fee, and the same thing for walk-ins. Resident walk-in fee, non-resident walk-in fee, daily fee, sorry.
Right.
Then you can deal with the walk-ins.
Yeah, the walk-ins, I think.
But a daily fee.
We went around and around on the walk-ins. We don't think you're gonna be able to start
Well-
charging walk-ins this year. I mean,
Well,
some
the
people
other
would like
thing is,
to,
I mean,
but-
I completely agree with your idea of the $5 daily fee, if that's something we can do for residents, because that probably will help alleviate part of the walk-in problem as well, because they'd say, well, I don't
Probably.
have to spend $35, let's 4 of us get in the car, spend $5, and we go down there and park. At least maybe that will curb that
It could
a touch.
alleviate some of the
Yeah,
walk-in.
At least it's a start.
My personal feeling, and it was not the feeling of the committee, my personal feeling was that you should institute a walk-in fee. Enforcing it is another issue. I don't think you should just not have a fee because you don't think you can enforce it. There should be a fee, and then you deal with enforcement as a separate issue. Because if there is a fee, then people
I
should
agree.
pay.
everyone has to keep in mind that we're talking about teenage kids.
No, I understand that. I get that.
That's why we said we weren't sure how you'd enforce
Right,
it.
but you could use banding, they do that at water parks, a simple Tyvek type of a band. You can
No,
do.
no, I'm saying actually,
At the
Chasing
gates.
people.
right, stopping
But
people.
that would prove that they
so-
walked, that would prove that they paid. They'd have to
Right,
have
so the
band.
enforcement might be
That's the enforcement.
down at the water, someone who doesn't, you know, I'm not asking, I would never ask the teenagers at the booth to attempt to chase down, of
Right.
course not. But there are adults down there on a periodic basis, the police officers are down there now and then, so, it's, like I don't think you don't institute a policy just because you think enforcement's gonna be difficult. I think you have a policy and then you deal with enforcement separately. I guess,
That's
if you
part of
understand what
learning.
I'm saying. Hmm?
It's part of the learning curve.
Right.
So I think from a strategic view, the first objective should be collecting data. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but maybe having the beach committee research companies that would be able to track some of the data, if they can have a company come in for a couple of weekends with employees that will tally the number of people that walk in, the number of people that
Well,
are seen at the beach.
Would it be difficult for the booth, there's always at least a couple people in that booth, right?
There's two, I think.
Just give them a
normally.
clicker every day.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and
what
that's
we're-
why my thought, I mean, Greg, I don't know if you can hear me, if you can speak to this, but, you know, I think, you know, you see at Walmart everywhere, they have these scanners, they cannot be that much money, I would think, to get a hold of something like that.
Well,
You print
there's
it on the
software,
sticker.
you need a computer to hook it up to, it's not
We
as
have an
easy as you
in-house
might
IT
think.
guy right here is more than willing to give us
If you
a
make a
shot.
mistake, you lose all the data.
I mean, it isn't quite as easy as you think.
Yeah, also, I think for a point of discussion at least, it's something to research. Obviously, you know, nothing beats a pen and paper, I know that, unless it catches on fire, blows it away in the wind. But, you know, I like the idea of at least being able, because otherwise, unless you record people's license plates, you can easily get that one click to see what their frequency is, which will tell you sort of, okay, oh, we had 100 cars here, but, you know, 50 of them are repeats versus 50 are new. I think that changes your model.
It does. It's not probably,
I
a
just want
matter.
you to have the most accurate data you can get, because
Sure.
it will change how the price schedule, or realistically the separation from the compost, and the compost as its own entity works as well. I know Mr. Pizzetti has a lot of reservations about separating the sticker, not being able to afford compost as its own entity. So that will
Well, I
allow us
think
to
you,
see that.
well, I think you address that after you get the data. Yeah, you might have some issue the first year that you break it out. But if compost costs $20,000 to run, I'm just picking a number out of thin air, then the number of people using the compost have to pay for that.
Right.
And if all of a sudden it doesn't pay for itself anymore, well, that's an operational decision to be made.
And I don't want to speak for Mr. Pizzetti, but I believe with all of the issues that we have had with regard to the commercial vehicles and the joint sticker, I believe that he would probably be in favor at this point of separating out those stickers.
Yeah, so I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but last my understanding is that his view, from what I recall, he couldn't see it being funded as a separate entity. Obviously, it sounds like it goes with problems, which we would all gladly like to resolve.
And see, this is part of our concern is right now we collect $35 for a sticker. I mean, we've got some numbers from Pam and stuff. I mean, there's a significant amount of money that comes in. I think last year was 106,000 or something. So the problem we're running into is if we say, okay, so you charge $25 for the beach and 10 for the compost, or 20 and 20 or whatever, but you need to make sure that whatever you're setting the fees at are going to be adequate enough to still generate enough revenue that you're not losing a lot of money that first year. And that's what our concern is because we don't have any hard data. How do you make a recommendation on what the amount is?
And that's the suggestion, that this year we do that.
Because
And
frankly, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Maybe, Pam, between now and the start of the season, you figure out a way how we can track the cars, whether it's a clicker, and have each kid, count, or have one kid count cars, and maybe another kid can do the walk-ins or whatever, do a daily rate, and then we can easily monitor the compost.
Because frankly, if the compost isn't self-supporting, is it right to expect beachgoers to subsidize the compost?
Right.
You need to address whether compost even makes sense if it's not self-supporting.
I think the other issue that you came up with, a great idea, is we do a daily fee also this year.
Yeah, that, well, I think that's, we can.
I also think if you have a walk-in fee, a great number of people will pay it. I think right now, they don't pay it because
It's no
there's
fee.
no fee. And so they're walking in. I think if you instituted a daily fee by car and a daily fee to walk in, most people would pay it. Very few people are gonna, it's like stealing. There will be some that do, but the vast majority of people will pay because that's what the expectation is.
Right. So sort of be the honor system, because you're not gonna be able to monitor them,
Yeah,
but if they pay, they pay, if they don't,
Yeah,
then.
one of the questions is, you know, if you do have the gate under the bridge, you could have backup onto Thompson Road.
Yeah.
So that's the argument to really move it down beyond the walking path
But
and
if-
create some kind of nicer
But
looking
with
fence.
the cost of the gates, you could actually put 2 entrance gates in and 1 exit gate. And it would eliminate, it could, not, again, not right at the bridge, but bring it in a little bit, and that might resolve
But you
your
may need
issue
more
because-
staff to, if you have 2 entrances, you have to have double the amount
No,
of staff.
because
No,
it's gonna be
still one
automatic.
person out. It's automatic in.
Oh,
only-
okay, you're saying pay on the way out.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So
So-
if I'm understanding you, you're saying that we would have like those automated gate kiosks, like a parking garage. The first one would be at the bridge, so if, say I only had a sticker for the
No, there would
walking
just be
track.
2 side by side in the wide
Oh, I
area.
thought you were talking about the idea
No.
of possibly separating the bridge and the walking track
No,
and
well,
charging. And
I think I don't
No.
know if I drew this, but you'd have a gate
we need a map.
for entrance in.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your booth, okay? Then you have another booth for entrance in. Now, what you could do on the exit out is you could have a person where people could be on both sides. They could come in on both sides and they could just rotate. You know, like you do at the ATM, you know, they
Right,
rotate you
right.
between the two.
So
but
this discussion's
both
better off
doors- yeah.
for next year after we know
Yeah.
what our numbers are.
Right,
Right,
just
that
so
would,
Right now,
that would
we're just,
eliminate your thing. So
You
I
know.
think, it comes down to if the board deciding to do a walk-in, setting a fee.
is we're
um,
gonna be setting fees there shortly, right?
A
Yeah,
daily,
so-
you know, a daily residence fee.
And we
then
should do a
maybe-
walk-in, if they
Well,
pay,
that's
they
what I
pay,
mean,
if they
daily-
don't, they don't.
Yeah, and then maybe leave the rest the way it is until you collect the data for next year. If you want to split the tickets this year, then
If you don't split the tickets, then our recommendation would be that when you sell the ticket, you ask the person whether they're using only the beach, only the compost, or whether they're using both.
Wait, it sounds to me like there was almost a consensus here to split. I'm not saying
Well,
everyone's gonna
yes.
vote that way, but I think
Yeah,
you
we've
do
had-
wanna split
You
it.
just
At
have
that
to
point,
set
you
the
have to
fee.
just pick a number out of thin air then as to what you
Well,
want to charge.
It's not really thin air, because you do know the total amount you've collected.
Yes, we
Right?
do.
So you kind of know the totals, and you can
Yes.
make some assumptions, so it's not really out of thin
Yeah,
air.
and Mr. Pizzetti might have some
He
better
may know.
numbers as to how many people actually use the compost, so you might be able to. And the first year, you may lose on the compost. I mean, we understand that. You may,
Or you could lose on the
or
beach.
you could lose on the beach. I mean, you could lose money on either or because you take the overall revenue generated and then say.
We also had a couple of votes, you know, at town meeting excluding certain people from fees altogether. So there may be people that have been buying stickers that now are not going to be required to buy a sticker anymore, so.
We're planning on doing seniors free this year.
Yes.
You took that vote actually in July.
Now, that,
Yes.
and that poses another issue because you voted that anyone 65 and over is free. Well, it was used to be anybody 60 and over was free, or not free, I'm sorry. Anyone
Senior.
60 and over was a senior who paid $20. But now you voted that anybody 60 to 64 who's a senior, I don't know what you're charging, but 65 and older is now free. So if we have a revenue number of $6,400 or $6,500 for your seniors at $20, you just eliminated a bunch of those $20 people.
Sure.
So we don't know what that vote is, how it's going to impact your revenue.
Right.
But I'm
That's
thinking a
just
lot
another
of-
unknown factor.
Again, that's
Right.
something you have to make an assumption, maybe that's $5,000 a year, I mean, you don't know. But
And
you'll have to
do-
make an
and-
assumption.
And what you didn't address was, do the 60 to 64s now have to pay 35? Or do they stay at 20 and now 65 is free? That's not in your vote, so we have no idea what.
Well, we
what
can
your
vote that
intent
when
is.
we take up the,
Right.
Just
the
another
fees.
thing to think about.
And then
So-
you also have to realize that there was a town meeting vote to exclude all active service members and anybody with a handicap sticker. So there's going to be, some additional people as well that won't be paying.
so, we're not here all night. You came here frustrated,
Yes?
and look what we got done, right?
Yeah, wonderful.
They need to get you two more
Venting is
members.
good.
We would like 2 more members, I think,
members.
yes.
What is our, what is our?
Well, what are we doing?
What are we
Well,
doing?
what are we
Well, we're gonna
doing?
get the numbers.
Yeah,
So really, until we get the numbers, there's really not a lot you can do as far as knowing how many people use the beach. We're planning on doing a daily fee. We'll, if the board so sees it, we'll do a walk-in fee, if the board so sees it, and we'll split the, we'll try to
right.
split
And so
the-
what do we work, so what is the mission of our committee at this point, then?
Well, first of all, let's not go over any constraints here. When do we have to order stickers by? Because I think that's the big question.
Yeah, at least by the end of February.
Okay, so we got a little time then. I think we absolutely need to bring this discussion back, especially with Chairman Bork. I'm sure he'd have some words of input as well. Now, you're looking for the overview mission of the committee? Is
Right,
that-
because there's really nothing else for us to do with regard to fees. We've talked to you about what we know, we've talked to you about what our feelings are as far as, that's, you know, we're done with working with fees for now. So are we supposed to work on something else? What is that something else? You think that
Well-
this is a standing committee just going forward?
I think once we get the
Then there should
information,
be-
I believe that down the road, it should be a committee that's looking at different options for revenue to keep the place funding itself.
Then there
Well,
should
you
be,
know, like-
then there should be terms for the members. You know, you appointed 5 of us. But if it's a standing committee, it feels like to me that people should be appointed for a certain amount of time.
Well, you weren't you appointed for X number of years each? No?
No.
We were disappointed.
It was more of an
All
ad,
right.
it was an
Well,
ad
then
hoc.
you're gonna stay.
But it becomes,
Well,
you know,
I
it's
disagree
ad,
with that.
it's ad hoc until it really gets going.
Yeah.
And then I think in a year or two, you probably do want to have,
You know, you gave us a lot of information
We
tonight.
did, and we
may
gave
not
you
think
a- you
did,
know-
but you did.
We also,
We can also go, but we have a meeting Thursday. We can go
Right.
back, we can vote on everything we've recommended tonight, and then put something in writing.
And
to
then
the
when we
board on
vote,
what was discussed
the night we
here.
have, when we vote for the beach, I want you to come here with your recommendations and.
I'm
we'll
sorry,
follow.
what?
When we vote on the prices for the beach, why don't you come that night and give us all your recommendations, and we'll address each one of them individually, or whatever. Yeah, and stay home and
better.
watch.
But if we're continuing to meet,
We don't know what you want us to work on. That's the thing.
what are we?
Six Flags.
Six
Yeah.
Flags.
Yes.
We have, we actually, I haven't released it to the board, but I spent an afternoon putting together short-term, midterm, and long-term goals.
Okay. Good.
Once I release it to the board, I'll release it to you guys, if the board agrees with it, because that was pretty conclusive.
It
about-
was.
That was
Right.
pretty in-depth. I just got so frustrated, I said, okay, I can't stand this anymore, I'm putting stuff down on paper. I have it for the board when we get together, so, we can share that with you if the board so desires and stuff.
We have quite a list of recommendations
We
that we
do.
can make. We've got 20, 25 items
Right.
that we can bring to your attention that might need working on. Anywhere from grills to subletting space down there.
To the
Yeah.
season, the length of the season, supervision.
in some of the, if you could prioritize those 20-something, you know, Deb, as you said, into the kind of near-term, medium-term, longer-term, you know, as Mark had mentioned, the long-term, maybe that's 5 years out, a marina. But you're right, you've got to deal with DEP, you've got to deal with town engineers here, you don't have that
And our
expertise,
committee's just too
and we
small to
understand
do
that.
You know, I can even understand Mr. Joel saying, you know, well, we could go out and do research from, you know, we're all working people. We, you know, we're not, we don't have the, you know, that's one of our issues. We don't have the time. We had a hard enough time, poor Ray, we had a hard enough time getting a secretary who could actually do the minutes and type them and stuff, because we're all involved in so much stuff that Ray finally, you know, kind of, he said one meeting and it's the third one and he's still doing it, but.
He does a nice job.
He does do a good job.
We don't want to
But
let him go.
It is very tough for this committee with 5 people to do, you know, we're like, okay, you research the booths and you research the prices and you research this, and so you're trying to fit this in on your other time, and it's very difficult with a few of us there.
Has anybody researched compost in other towns to see how they do it?
No, because we're not,
the beach committee.
right.
Yeah, I know you're not the compost committee, but my thought is if you're gonna get that, be able to divorce that rate, that, you know, that is definitely a factor.
They're not dealing with compost.
But I
We
mean,
did discuss
but it
that.
does
We
go
said
into
with
the
beach
fee
advisory
structure.
Well,
though.
you have a Department of Public Works,
Kenny would be able to do
supervisor
Yeah,
who
Kenny should have that.
should be able
But
to.
I guess, but my thought of what I was saying is to look to other towns to see, towns that have a beach or not, just how, if they have a compost facility, what they averagely charge, because like you said, we wouldn't know where to begin to.
Yeah, but I would think Mr. Pizzetti could get that information for
Yeah.
you.
We did the pricing on the beaches. Ray actually went out and got pricing for different locations.
Great.
The Cape, Buffums, Wallam, as to what they charge their residents. And so we have that information and stuff, but we did not even, the compost wasn't even under our radar. The
Were
big
you,
thing
were you
was
able to find a
being
lot of
split.
municipal beaches? Because I know sometimes it's like comparing apples to oranges if they get state funding.
Well, they do have state funding, but they are your competition as well. And so, how they're funded is one thing, but how they're drawing people in and why they're not coming to your beach instead is really the bottom line.
And even like Wallam, which we looked at today, Wallam has a resident sticker. So
No,
you can buy a
I
resident
completely
sticker.
agree. I think we need to do a resident sticker. I think we should charge for walk-ins. I think it's just common sense stuff that should happen. So I think you guys have done a great job.
So we'll bring it up at, when we vote our fees, and get that to us before then.
And you'll look for 2 more people that want
Sure.
to serve on the committee?
Yeah,
Great.
So
thank you.
at
Okay,
this point,
thank you.
Thank you.
I'd say we've considered the beach committee to be an ad hoc advisory committee reporting to the Board of Selectmen for improvements, implementations to the beach, until we change it to a long-term standing committee, correct?
And then I could put together like I did with the Economic Development Committee, so you have something that this is the mission, this is what it's for, and if it's going to be a long-term committee, I agree, but it needs something like that we did for the Economic Development Committee.
Right.
And I guess the one last question I would have is, I know the fees were the issue for this year, but was there anything else that the board was thinking this committee would have recommendations on for 2016?
I'd say probably the grills were the
Yeah,
other
that's what I
big
was
issue.
thinking.
Yeah.
What were you
We have
gonna say?
The grills, and we
Yeah,
have
the
discussed
grills.
that
Say that'd be
within the
number
tables,
2.
we have discussed that, and we can.
And those are your enhancement, because you had listed, fees, stickers, then signage, which, we always hear signage.
Has the committee met with Mr. Pizzetti at any time?
No.
Because I would ask to have him sit in, because I know, whereas his department does oversee the cleanup and maintenance of the beach, that the grills, that was a delicate issue, so it would definitely be advised to meet with him on that. to
No,
get
we had even
all
discussed that at
sides
one
of
of
it.
our meetings. Ms. Ledoux had come, and then we had said we had, Paula Framboy's came from the planning board, because we were looking at different things, and then we said we'd have to get together with the DPW as well as the water department, and Scott Charpentier has actually identified on the map where things could be put at the beach. So he put different areas, like this is gonna be the filtration, this is gonna be this, and he gave us back the map. Ms. Framboy's actually took it and told us to blow it up, so we have a big map.
But we
that
haven't
we
seen
can
that
look
yet.
at. We haven't gotten it
So
back yet.
almost like
but
a miniature zoning for beach.
Because of the
in a
DEP,
sense.
because of
Right.
everything.
wells
So we
and
realize we have
Yeah.
so many, if we do make recommendations, we're gonna have to meet with so many different department heads before we can even even advise the board, because it impacts so many.
It's not like the old days, you could just set up a lemonade
No.
stand, It's-
So,
All right, well, we got a lot done
Well,
tonight.
thank you
All
for
right.
all that. You've got a lot more
Appreciate
here than you ever thought.
I guess so. Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Next item is Megan Donahue, appointment to the Economic Development Commission.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Donahue is our Assistant Town Planner, and with the resignation of Mr. Charpentier leaving, the Economic Development Committee, the makeup of that committee calls for the town planner or his or her designee, and Megan is chomping at the bit to be put on this committee and move it forward. Committee of 2 at this point, Mr. Bork and if the board approves this, Mrs. Donahue, but I think she can get the committee going in the right direction.
We have a motion.
Make a motion to appoint Megan Donahue to the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Discussion. Full of board?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Julder?
Yes.
Selectman Duggan?
Yes. Any other new business?
So my other thought with Mr. Charpentier's resignation, I know that we recently appointed him as ADA coordinator. Ms. Ledoux, do you feel that that is something that she would be qualified to do in his absence?
Actually, I just wrote myself a note. Selectman Starzak, my recommendation is going to be to appoint the building commissioner to that position.
Oh, very good.
And I've already spoken with him about that, so we'll include that on your next agenda.
Very good, thank you.
You know, any other new business? Informational mail?
We did get the town election 2016 schedule, and nomination papers are now available. The election slate for May 2nd, 2016. 2 3-year seats are open on the Board of Selectmen. 1 3-year seat is open on the school committee. There's 1 3-year seat open on the assessors. Board of Health has 1 3-year seat open. Finance committee has 2 3-year seats open. Town treasurer has a 3-year seat open. Town moderator has 1 3-year seat open, and then the trustees of the public library have 2 seats for 3 years open. The regional vocational school committee has 1 3-year seat open. Redevelopment authority has 1 5-year seat open, and then the housing authority has 1 5-year seat open as well.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Got a motion?
One last thing, I know there's been talk about, now that it's the new year, starting up the town administrator search committee. I didn't know if the board wanted to commit to a date, or rather put out a notice to accept applications for that committee.
I think it's on the next agenda.
Is that on the next agenda? Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure it didn't fall through the cracks. I know a lot of people are very interested. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's made second. On the board?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jordan?
Yes.
Selectman Degevich?
Yes. All right.
He's saying the hand.